Welcome to our Brecknock Township Supervisors monthly meeting. This time I'll call the meeting to order. And I'll invite you to join the board as we stand for pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we welcome a new member to our board tonight, Andy Baum, who was and continues to be the roadmaster for the past 4.5 years. So he normally attends our meetings, so he's very well familiar with what goes on. The board also is pleased to have Mike Renner as our township engineer back.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And Liz as our legal counsel. So
Thank you.
at this time we'll have the roll call.
Jerry Long,
Here.
David Limbach,
Here.
Andrew Baum,
Here.
Michael Reiner,
Here.
Elizabeth McGovern,
Here.
Carol Martin.
Okay. We have a public comment session where you get an opportunity to speak to the board before we take any action tonight. There are agendas here somewhere, preferably if there's something on our agenda that you'd like to address the board. I limit you to 4 minutes unless the supervisors want to continue the conversation. At this time, is there anyone who'd like to speak in our open comment session? Yes, just state your name for the record.
Jared Artis, Deputy Fire Chief, 521 Fire Company. Just wanted to know what the status was. I know the house that has been condemned up there on 897, it still seems to be vacant, which is good. However, what is the township's thinking as far as the next step?
As a board, I don't think we have any plan of action. It's, Mike, do you know anything about as far as the
I believe we were coordinating initially with Liz's office. I know we were also talking to Levi. Levi, I don't recall exactly. That was a couple of months ago we last talked about that property.
The hazardous material has been remediated.
Right.
As far as, and it's still condemned before they, by the building inspector. So at this point, that's where it's at.
We're protected from
Right.
any liability
Yes,
because
yeah.
it has been condemned.
And it's like in pre-foreclosure or something like that. It's just a long process.
Okay. No, that's,
But it remains private property. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
And the township is taking action just to protect ourselves.
You got it.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Torrey Simpson, Chief of Bowmansville Fire Company. 3 things. Just want to say thanks to Andy. In October, he came out with a backhoe and some chains and come alongs and whatnot. Helped us set a pole. And his stuff is still in use. Since October 15th. But thank you for coming out that evening. And then last week, one of the slip roads, I called for a salt truck to come over and make the road wet instead of snow covered for the wrecker, and they were there within 5 minutes. So thank you, Andy, for your quick service.
Hey, you're welcome. We appreciate your service.
Now, the second item would be that Frontier problem. I've been on the phone with them daily, never talked to anybody. So Carol will get those numbers after the meeting, and we'll turn it over to the township as far as getting your stuff back. You know, there's materials from the township laying along the road that do deteriorate. So if that strap rips, the pole will be in the middle of Bouchtown Road.
Right.
And I think that's really what needs to happen. The strap needs to rip. The last item I have is state police. We had an accident 2 weeks ago, and we had a 93-year-old man who had no cell phone, no phone numbers. And I said, what are we going to do 2 hours after the fact? I said, what are we going to do to get this guy home? And their plan of attack was to take him to the Sunoco and Bowmansville and drop him off. I can't do that. I ran him home to Grail. But I don't think it's good practice for the fire chief to be running residents home. So it's a state police issue, they're undermanned. He said all I can do is take them to the local gas station and drop them off.
I hope sometime the next month or couple months that we get the sergeant in here again. He used to come like once a month.
Yeah, it's somebody different now, that's why.
Okay.
So I can contact them.
Okay.
The response times have been very lax. I mean, we had the brush fire up here, they ended up sending an East Girl cop up to, and he had no jurisdiction. He's like, I can't do anything to help you out. And that was after we waited 45 minutes. The call we had out here in front of Weaver's, we waited an hour for state police. So if you hit them a shift change,
Yeah.
that's what we get.
I know, I thought we might see some improvement because they're covering Terry Hill now.
Yeah, we don't.
If they're in Terry Hill, then they're that much closer to respond.
The comment I made 2 weeks ago was I had one man covering 4 townships.
Yeah.
And that was a Saturday afternoon, middle of the day, you know, so that's where that was.
That's kind of surprising, so I'll check on that.
Well, I guess, you know, we as a board probably can put pressure on our legislators to, but it's a problem that is bigger than just our township. They're understaffed because of,
I just fear that 93-year-old man, if he was in such good health, he would start walking to the ring. He really would have. Yeah.
Well, or heaven forbid we run into somebody that's belligerent.
yeah.
I mean, we still don't have, we're still waiting. So,
Okay, well, thanks for your comments. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, we'll move on to our agenda item. We have a couple guests tonight. We have from JTK Investments.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Veronica, if you just want to, yeah, just if you would come up to the front here and just kind of give the board a brief overview of the project, and then I can kind of jump in with how the planning commission meetings went.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you all have a copy of the plan, or do you want me to
We do.
pull out the
And
plans
we have the minutes
from the planning commission?
Commission.
Okay. Jared, you can jump in at any time if you want to join me at all. This is Jared Koch, he's the owner of the company, and they do you want to explain what you do?
Sure. So we have a couple different divisions of the business. We do small renovations and handyman work. We do commercial and residential power washing, and then also solar washing as well.
So just to give you a quick background, he did go to the zoning hearing board back in 2018. Just this property is very small. It's only about a little bit less than an acre. So there was an existing house here before he had bought it, correct?
Yeah.
And that was removed, and there was some area here that was for a driveway and things like that. So we went to PennDOT and got a driveway permit to relocate the driveway in a better location. And then, so we've crossed that bridge. We are proposing a building here and a shed with parking, on-lot sewer and on-lot water. I'm trying to think what else is important. And in the meantime, he went to zoning so he could start using the property, correct?
Yeah, a temporary parking lot.
Right. So that's about it. If you have any questions or if you want to add anything.
Yeah, and that's, the planning commission reviewed this at their last meeting. The only other element with this is the stormwater management.
Oh,
Would
right,
be in the
yeah.
rear of the property. They are proposing a basin in the rear of the property to take care of the additional runoff. They did get some credit. They had some existing impervious on the property, so that did kind of offset some of the additional that they're adding. There's a little bit of a swap there, but they've provided stormwater for the net increase that they're showing with the building and the parking lot area. So, Planning Commission reviewed this back right before Christmas. Jerry, you were obviously at the meeting. There were 4 recommendations for waivers. The waivers were a partial waiver for paving the entire access driveway and parking area. The applicant's just proposing to pave the apron, I believe, off of the Dry Tavern Road. And if there's a UCC requirement for the ADA spot, they were also requesting that be paved as well with the building code. The other items are partial waiver of the shoulder widening improvements of Dry Tavern Road. PennDOT did not have any requirement for that with their comments with the HOP. Number three would be waiver of, to go right to final plan, and number 4 would be for the placement of monuments. And their final recommendation would be conditional final plan approval based on meeting all the other engineering requirements in my December 16th review letter. So that was their recommendation to the board. If you have any questions about my review, I can certainly go over those. Fairly straightforward plan, some minor details that are being worked out. County had some minor comments that were very minor in nature, typical of a smaller land development plan of this type. So
Some of them were repeats of what you had commented.
yes,
too,
correct.
so,
That
yeah.
usually happens.
Which is fine.
Okay, does the board have any questions for the applicant?
What's solar plot?
Sure. So a lot of the agricultural farms you see now with solar on them, just due to the dusty nature, we have a robot that cleans those.
Oh, it cleans the solar panels.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of a niche market.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just curious. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys picked up, they were able to get on-lot septic system, which was surprising because we don't get too many of them on our
Mhm.
properties in Brecknock, but it worked and they're able to utilize an on-lot system.
Good.
Well, if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion that we approve the 4 waiver requests. Also, we approve the final plan and contingent upon meeting all the comments that were addressed in Mike's letter on the 16th.
A second.
Okay, motion was made to grant the waivers and the final plan approval. It was second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, James Zimmerman. Now you saw how it's done, so.
I'm a greenhorn at this. I guess y'all have a plan.
Yeah.
Mine's a little bigger. So we're proposing a new dairy barn on Lee Road property.
Would you like me to jump in, Mr. Zimmerman?
What, you want to hear? I guess that's what I'm thinking.
You did good at the planning commission. I wasn't sure if Keith was going to be here tonight or not, but
He
that's,
could have been, but I said, well,
Okay,
I said,
that's-
it's not a lot worse than the planning commission.
that's not a problem, yes. This is, as Mr. Zimmerman said, they're proposing a dairy facility, a couple of additional structures related to that agricultural operation on their property. The primary focus of my review was essentially stormwater improvements. That's where most of my comments came from related to this. So obviously, it's an existing farm, existing driveway that they're going to be using off of Lead Road. The Planning Commission reviewed this as well, and there were 4 waiver requests, 3 of which are very similar to what you just did for the shoulder widening along Lead Road. Going to a final plan versus a preliminary plan, and also for monuments. In addition to that, there's a waiver request for the emergency spillway to use a non-emergency use to convey flows greater than the 50-year storm event. Essentially what that means, they're actually conveying 25-year storm event through the emergency spillway. What that means essentially is typically you would have to have you would allow a larger storm event to only go through your emergency spillway. You wouldn't want smaller storm events to constantly be overflowing through that spillway over the berm. In this case, there's actually 2 basins that are being used in the property. So the overflow from the one that needs relief is actually immediately flowing into the other basin. So it's not going into any kind of direct discharge to a tributary or something like that. So In my opinion, it's a very minor type of waiver. But it literally from the interpretation of the ordinance, because it is flowing and using that smaller storm event, they do need relief for that requirement. The final item would be the conditional final approval, again, based on the review comments in my letter. I did receive a Conservation District letter today. I believe that that's moving along in their process.
Yeah.
So that's jumped through the first hurdle, and now they're into the second hurdle of technical review. So that's the other component, that this does require an NPDS permit from Conservation District and DEP.
And this also would be in compliance with your December 18th.
That's correct, yes. Yep.
So why is there a second basin?
It's just a matter of how they designed it. And I think a lot of it had to do with volume and the ability to perk on the property, because they're using, one actually had a better infiltration rate than the other one. So to meet that requirement, my guess would be for the DEP permit, not for the township permit, that they had to do this combination of design when they did that. Usually DEP hurdles are much more stringent than township requirements are.
I'm sure it takes longer.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Zimmerman?
Well, it's good to see a dairy operation going. My dad was a dairy farmer, so,
Oh,
yeah, he retired from it now, but you don't see many going up anymore.
not right now,
No.
anyway.
Okay, the planning commission recommended that we grant the 4 waiver requests, and then we need to act on the final plan approval, so. Is there a motion to approve on this?
I make a motion that we approve the waiver requests 1 through 4 as presented.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and it was second to grant the waivers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, there's also a recommendation for final plan approval. Does that need the motion also? I'll make that motion that we grant them final plan approval.
A second.
Continued upon them meeting the conditions as described in the Township Engineer's letter on December 18th.
Still second.
Okay. Motion was made and second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you.
Okay, in your packet, you actually have the minutes from the planning commission, so proceed to the next minutes from Township minutes from December 10th. So, are there any additions or corrections for the minutes as they're listed? Not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Okay, there's a motion, I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now, you have the minutes from our January 6th reorganizational meeting. Is there any addition or corrections for that? Okay, is there a motion to accept them?
I make a motion to accept the reorganizational meeting minutes as presented.
A second it.
Okay, the motion was made and second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. You have a copy of the bills to be paid in January for a total of $46,581.01. Are there any questions?
I had a question, the second one there, annual renewal, what is that?
That's the speed timing device, the speed sign. That's so that we can look at the speeds and everything online.
that like leased or something?
No, that's just to be able to keep track of it. I mean, the sign
Like a
could we...
program or something,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, yep. We own the machine.
What do they have, is that through the internet or?
Yes, it's cloud-based,
Okay.
yes,
That's a
So you can see the speeds right from here.
yes.
That's the only question I had. I make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $46,000, $46,581.01.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made to pay the bills as presented, and it was second. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to your reports. We have the roadmaster's report. Do you have any questions or comments for the roadmaster? The good road replacement, how immediate is that you need direction?
Well, I have to get Mike working on the permitting process here shortly, and I think you pretty much have to know what we're gonna do to apply for the permit, right?
Yes, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what-
I mean, I could
take,
try-
what, 6 months to get
The only option is I could try to just throw in the different alternatives and see if we can just get a generic approval and then, tailor it based on the alternative that you finally choose.
Okay,
I mean, that is an option. I've done that already in other townships.
okay.
We had this budgeted.
Yes.
Yes.
You remember what the amount is we budgeted?
Well, we were covering it.
Okay.
But we're looking at four options. The roadmaster gave us four options. One is with 2 runs of pipe, concrete pipe, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
A second option is 1 run of a larger concrete pipe. A third option is a box culvert. And the fourth option is a 3-sided box culvert. So it's a matter of, now,
Is there enough a height for a single large pipe?
Yes, there would be enough there. It would be an elliptical pipe. And I've checked and everything seems to be able to work out with that. Concrete pipe, you don't need a whole lot of coverage over it in order to bridge over it, so that helps with that distance there.
I thought those head walls were kind of leaning or something. or-
The head walls, if we would do with the larger elliptical concrete pipe, the head walls, the current head walls would have to be removed and new ones put in its place. Even at the 2 runs, if we would go with the smaller elliptical concrete pipe and try to reuse the existing holes in the head walls, that one wall is leaning pretty good. And, we'll try to save it, but I don't know if it'll be possible.
the box culverts, you mentioned that the single run, 1 large pipe.
Yeah.
You don't know if you could save the end walls. What about the box culverts? That ain't different.
No, the box culverts.
So are you saying if you went with the 2 smaller runs, there's a better possibility of preserving the 2 end walls?
Right, it is, but your flow rate is gonna be less than what it is now. And it does flood there occasionally.
But currently, there's 2 pipes.
Yes, there's 2 elliptical pipes, about the same size as that elliptical concrete, 34 by 53.
Well, I always was under the impression it was better to go a large single than multiple small ones.
I think 2
Yeah.
smaller ones are gonna clog.
You have a
the
less
tree or
chance
something.
of catching debris and it clogging up.
That could be problematic for permitting also, because I believe even though you have 2 existing now, they may ask for 1 single pipe to avoid obstructions and debris and that kind of thing. So that could ripple into your decision too,
Yeah.
just from the permitting end.
You projected cost of the box culvert, a 3-sided box culvert, actually, you saying would cost more than a 4-sided?
3-sided would be a little less
Okay.
than a 4-sided box culvert.
Are they actual, or this is estimated, or these actual firm costs on the box?
These are estimated, and that is something too, even, you know, everything is at least 6 to 8 weeks, you know, we have to order this stuff, and, so that could 6 to 8 weeks to get that, and I don't know how long the permitting process will take, that can take quite a while at times.
Well, I can picture how a four-sided box culvert would fit in. You know, they come,
Yeah.
it's basically a square pipe.
Yeah.
But the three-sided, what are you saying? It would be open the bottom and?
Yes, it would be every natural stream bed in the bottom, and you basically, I'd have to get some guidance on how these go in, but I believe you dig footers on either side, and then you just come in and they set on these footers, and they are tied together somehow or another. I've worked with it one time years ago, but I was not there for the whole entire thing, so, but I do know, as far as like DEP and stuff, they tend to like them because you have your natural stream bed then.
Don't they have more potential to wash out, or?
No, because they usually require you to go so large that, I mean, it's got to be a really massive flood that it's going to create issues.
Now, so are you saying DEP likes the open bottoms?
They do,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, because one of the requirements is you have to actually have the invert 6 inches below the stream bed, so that allows the aquatic life to continue through. So the open obviously achieves that. It's either that, or if you have a bottom, then you got to sump that
Yeah.
6 inches usually minimum just to provide that.
Yeah,
So
see,
you're still going back to the same idea. It's just it's a little different design using the three-sided versus
But
four.
it seems like it can be done so much quicker with a four-side. because
I've usually only seen four-sided. I haven't seen too many three.
Really?
The neighbor across from me, Mark Meyer, they put in a box culvert. You know, they came in, pumped the water around, dug it, set them in.
That has a bottom in it now.
Yeah. And so you're saying it has to be lower than the street?
Yeah, they just have to sump that 6 inches below at least minimum. Yeah, it's a fairly common design for any pipe replacement now.
Or if you have the bottom open, then you have to pump your water around it, dig footers, put steel in it, pour it,
Yeah, either,
hard, and then set your three-side on top.
either or it's requiring to pump around and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Do you think you could apply for the permitting process with?
I could, because I think we're literally
or
down to either a
culvert?
box culvert or the one single
Yeah.
elliptical pipe.
Yeah.
So I could run both of those scenarios, and I think we would be fine
Okay.
moving forward with permitting under either scenario, because the same pieces are still coming into play with the cofferdam, the ENS controls. It's all the same. It's just a matter of which final pipe you decide, or
Yeah.
box culvert.
Maybe get some firm prices.
I can readjust, get some on the four-sided.
Okay, so you just continue to work on that?
Okay. That might start the permit process a while, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else for the roadmaster? Okay, the Township Engineers Report.
Okay, you have a copy of my report of January 8th. Page 4, I have, actually items 1 and 2 have already been addressed with the guests that we had tonight. Items 3 through 6, and I will add a 7th. I had a late arrival, actually it was on my end. Number 3 is the Jeffrey and Esther Snyder Stormwater Project. It's a financial security release in the amount of $4,000. Item 4 is the Dean Rutt Stormwater Project, financial security recommendation in the amount of $2,200. Item 5 is the Hawk Valley Phase 1 project. This is a financial security release recommendation in the amount of $375,330.81. Item 6 is the Stephen Albertson Stormwater Project, financial security recommendation letter in the amount of $5,500. And item number 7 is a letter I thought I issued 3 years ago. It's a release for Brandon Gingrich for his project in the amount of $841 that Carol brought to my attention just last week, which I appreciate.
Is that the final release?
Yes.
That's his final release. He's actually been done for
Yeah.
2 or 3 years now. So I had a letter in draft and just never issued it.
Who was that for?
Brandon Gingrich.
Is that on Mountain
Malls Needles.
Right, yeah.
Do you have any questions for Mike on these? If not, is there a motion to take the action as recommended by the township engineer?
I make a motion that we take action on the following items as presented by the township engineer.
Okay,
I second it.
motion was made to grant or take the township engineer's actions. And it was second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, you have zoning officer's report. Do you have anything for the zoning officer? Do you have anything to add?
No, the issue about the oven, then
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nothing more.
Anything from the solicitor? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the reports as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the roadmaster, engineer, SEO, and the zoning officer's reports.
I second it.
Okay, the motion was made to approve the reports, and it was second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, in Park and Rec, we have a request for the annual contribution that the township makes to the Williamsville Union Cemetery Association of $1,500. We've been donating them the $1,500 every year. And then we use that for parking for Williamsville Days and park applicants or people that are there also park in that area, so unless there's any comments not to, I'd make a motion that we go ahead and pay the donation to the Williamsville Union Cemetery Association Board for $1,500, which is the 2019's contribution.
I second it.
Okay, we had a motion, it was second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, in regards to, we have a letter from the zoning officer talking about moving the bake oven from the Williamsville Park to Brubaker Park. What, how did this come about to be in?
Well, I think initially it was the fact that the bake oven's been over the bone of the park and not being used, and with the users of the farmhouse being interested in the historical aspect, why they thought it would be used a lot more over here at the farmhouse. And Gary made the comment that then it'd be out of right field as well from the softball field.
Left field.
Sorry, I was turned around. Anyway, Gary had gotten a price from Harvey Zimmerman to move it in one unit. At your request, then I contacted him with the possibility of just collapsing it and moving it and rebuilding it, and then also contacted Luke Ringler. Harvey didn't think, he was hesitant to give a lower price. He did make a comment, he doesn't think it would come to $6,000, but he would be using equipment and a trailer to bring it over. The price that I got from Luke Ringler would be to try and bring it over as a unit using our backhoe, but I'm not sure the backhoe would lift it. And so there's the possibility that still we'd still have to get equipment. The other thing is he wasn't averse to collapsing it and starting all over, but he thought you know, we would collapse it, bring it over with a dump truck and you know, both bring it over and let him rebuild it. Both methods would require a pad preparation by the township. I'm not quite sure what that would involve, if it's any more than just getting a level pad and then letting them take over, or if it would be a concrete pad. I'm not sure, but both methods. And those individuals would require a pad to be prepared.
Well, I went out there and looked at it, and it is, the building is deteriorating and in need of repair. The posts that hold it are like rotted almost completely through. And I was wondering, well, there's a date stone on it, that's 1776. And I was curious the history of why it was built there and how much it was used. I understand it hasn't been used in many years now.
Right. I think it was built for the sesquicentennial.
Well, that would have been in 1970.
Yeah, well, it was in 1776, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, the date on it is 1976, so it must have not even been built for the,
Oh, the sesquicentennial was in 70.
so, yeah. And see,
Okay.
the
Bicentennial or
will be
whatever.
this year, 2020.
Okay.
So 50 years ago was the Sullivan, yeah, it was 1970. So that was built in 1976, so it would have been just 44 years ago instead of the, so it's been there now 44 years. I'm just wondering if it's not being used and won't be used and no one has any interest in it, does it just get let go or torn down? And then I was doing research on these bake ovens, and it's like there's no particular design that would symbolize a period of a certain time. You know, it was simply an oven that was created with a dome. You put a fire in there for 3 hours to get the temperature to about 1,000 degrees. You rake the ashes aside, and you bake bread or pie or something in the center. Now, if there's interest from the pathways to operate a bake oven, should they try to operate it a couple times there and make sure this is not just a passing fad, that there really has some interest? Do we pay $6,000 and build a new one over there, basically, or recreate one over there that they use for a couple of years, and then it sits for 44 years and no one uses it? So I'm kind of just wondering what the actual purpose and intent. I'm not quite sure what the farmhouse and the grounds will look like 5-10 years from now. The Pathway group uses it now, and they're enjoying the fact that there's historical value there, but their group is growing. Do we put money in a bake oven, and then 3 years from now, it's not being used anymore? And like I say, then it sits for 40 years. I don't know. And if they want to demonstrate stuff in a baked oven, should they do it during Bonesville days when the crowds are larger? Or Heritage Day? I don't know. I kind of backed up and said exactly what is the purpose here? Is it to move it out of Gary's way and put it over there so it adds to a collection, but we're not sure what the long-term plan is over there?
It used to be, I know my wife talks about it being used at Bowmansville days for many years when she was a kid. So I think that was a big thing years ago.
Do you know any history on it, Tori?
There's a lot of history out there on that oven, and I didn't pay attention to chime in, but the old guy that lived up Spots Lane, the top of it. What's his name?
Daniel Hagan.
Yes. It was his daughter I believe his daughter built that. You can ask Harry, and there's definitely
He would
some-
know.
There's old timers in the fire hall that talk about it, so I know there's history out there, but I don't know anything.
I was thinking, I had heard Daniel Hagan built it himself.
But his daughter definitely used it.
It could be.
Just my opinion, I agree with you 100%. Use that proposal list, show the thing off, do something with it.
I know Gary's main objective was, it's either we sink some money into making it look better, because it's falling apart, it's an eyesore right now, or we do something else with it. I think that was his objective, either we fix up the building around it and the chimney's falling apart, we gotta repoint that and stuff, or, we do something else with it. So-
My opinion is that if it moves out of Bowmansville, it loses a lot of its historical value. Or, if you want one over there, they could probably put one up there for cheaper than moving this. And moving this over here won't, maybe to some people it'll have the same value as it would, I don't know.
I guess to throw my personal opinion into it, when you take something from one area that has historical value and you pull it away and you put it somewhere else to try to add new value to it, it's kind of like taking, your grandmother's, something that was your grandmother's and now it's taken over here and it just doesn't mean nearly as much. I think if anything, I think the township should probably go to the Bowmansville Days Committee and say, hey, we'd love to see this being used again to show the community the historical value. If we sink some money into it, would you guys continue to use it for 5 years and then go from there?
Well, I was trying to find, a blueprint of a bake oven, and that didn't seem to exist. It seems like historically, if they did one next to the fireplace would help warm it, but the idea though about the bake oven, again, was to get the temperature of the masonry. Ron Funk, are you familiar with this type of stuff? Bake ovens? No? Well, they would get the masonry so hot, 1,000 degrees, then you brush the wood and to the side and you bake right there where the fire is, or was. And a lot of times, and they showed pictures of Colonial Williamsburg where the bake oven was right next to a big fireplace in the summer kitchen or the winter kitchen. Then they talked about people that try to recreate it nowadays. When they were originally built, they were built with face brick, and the face brick does not take the heat. The face starts breaking off of it and stuff. So if you want to create one like these guys try to recreate a replica one now, they recommend using fire brick. And so if they want a bake oven over there to accent their heritage days, maybe they should just try to build one of their own a little better and will last longer.
Luke said that he'd built some before, but they were smaller. He wondered if it would have to be that big. And he apparently just built one of the Peter Becker farm. A finished one, or rebuilding.
Yeah, for my brother-in-law, my sister, yeah. That was original when the house was built.
They seem to know, the design concept pretty well. And it seemed like that wasn't the first one that he did, but.
This one doesn't have fire brick in it, or something?
No, it's face brick, and the picture, you can see the inside.
Oh.
There, that's inside. It is starting to show some wear and tear.
Well, brick oven pizzas are coming back, just at the pizza shop, they actually did the pizzas and something like that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we just ought to try to get a little more history on why it was there, how long it was used.
Yeah, the inside.
that would fall in nicely with this year's bonus days being the 200th.
At least another year, yeah. And
Because they're going to have, well, the 200, it's not really going back to the sesquicentennial where they had the Brothers of the Bush and all that, but it's going to be a monumental year, 200th birthday at Bonesville. They're going to have a big fireworks display. So it'd be nice, depending on what you guys decide, to make sure that the committee, gets somebody to use that thing this year.
I think the
Pathways may even be interested in doing that.
Well, that's the thing, again, if they demonstrate and exhibit their willingness to bake some stuff there, I don't know if we couldn't raise private funds from businesses to have them build their own then next year or another year over there or something.
It wasn't too terribly long ago that, I think it was Connie Ginder had done it for Bowmansville Days, am I right? Yeah, yeah.
For a couple of years from what
I thought,
understand.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a number of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this year they're going to dig up the capsule.
Do they know where it's at?
Yes, it's located.
Because I'd heard
How long has that been in?
50 years.
1970. They buried certain stuff in this capsule, so this year they're going to open that up. So that would tie in nicely with the history thing if it was still around.
Okay.
So should we have somebody look at it, see if repairs are needed to make it functional?
Well,
Just get some, I would say get somebody to look at it and see what it would cost to get it, if there's something they could do.
or at least let's find out from the Bonesville Committee if they're going to attempt it or offer that someone try to use it this year. And we get someone willing to, maybe the thing to do would be to ask if there's anyone in the community that's interested in using it this.
I would get prices first. If they say it's gonna cost $10,000 to get it functional, I wouldn't even put it out there that they can use it.
Well, I think it can be used, the brick, there's a couple brick missing on the chimney, but that's not gonna affect it.
I don't think.
The inside, it's just the way it gets with the char and the face brick, some of it. Yeah.
I think Rich Hack might be able to take a look at it. He's a chemist, he lives in Bonesville. He does our chimney every year, and he could probably, if you could replace bricks in our stove and stuff, I'm sure he can give you some information on what needs to be done.
The other thing I was reading, that the chimney was generally in the front of the oven.
This one is.
I thought it was more in the center.
It looked to be in the center.
But anyway, I was, like I said, I was trying to do some research and finding about these.
I just Googled it, there's a lot of information on that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, do you know enough to get back to Pathways or Park and Rec and say, look, we just kind of like want to hold off and see if it can't be utilized this year yet at the Bonesville Days, at least.
Yeah. Will you be looking, asking if anybody's interested in it, or should I ask Pathways if they'd be interested in doing, looking at the Bonesville Days? At first
I don't think the committee's gonna have anybody else more willing than Pathways that are expressing their interest in it, so I think if you would go through Pathways and if they agree to, put a demonstration, use it that weekend, then go back to Pete or, somebody from the committee.
Okay. Yeah, I'll find out if they'd be interested in participating in the days and using it.
Good. Okay, next on the agenda is old business, the Act 537 plan update. Carol, that's been kind of...
I had emailed Fred last week and have not heard back.
Okay, Fred was, correct me if I'm wrong, like 85, 90% done with it. And we were waiting for him to finalize it. The numbers were worked into extend the sewer service area, the Act 537 plan on the highway commercial properties. And he just needs to finalize it, then what, it gets submitted to the county planning commission?
Yeah, there's a bunch of agencies that have that review.
But before he does that, he's gonna have to, he'll present that back to
Back
us.
here.
But I'll have to make a phone call, because I know he got my email, but he just never
But
responded.
it seemed like everything had come together. There was no obstacles that we were aware of.
No.
Not that I believe,
Okay, new business. We have a petition before the board to rezone some property from ag to highway commercial. Is there a memorandum of understanding established for the applicant that they will reimburse townships
For,
costs as we go forward on this?
there's a fee of $500 that goes with the application.
Okay.
That if the board decides to entertain it, and Liz can chime in here as well, if the board decides to entertain moving it forward, then we would be able to. At this point, we don't do anything with that money until the board decides to move
Right,
it
that's
forward,
correct.
correct? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, is Nathan here?
Yes.
Would you like to express your interest or desire or request to the board? What you're thinking here?
Well, as it says, a petition to rezone the 2.5 acres. I think what had happened initially when this was all rezoned, there was this, the 2.5 acre parcel was always there, or at least when zoning was being done. I'm not sure what happened. I guess I had never requested to have that included. We had asked separate, or after the zoning, the process was started, to have most of our farm included because of our business there. And then I had a party interested in buying this 2.5 acres. And that is when I discovered it was not it wasn't highway commercial. So that is why I started the process.
Where is the highway commercial line in this map here? Where did it,
Well,
is it up?
going by this map, I would say it's about this line here.
Dave, it's approximately 500 foot off the Bowmansville Road.
Okay.
It runs parallel with, I think in reality, it's, what I recall, it's like this. It was no intent to match the property. It was simply a distance that was
Off the
established
road.
off the road.
But it's close up to that property
It's-
line.
It doesn't match entirely, but yeah, it does come in proximity of that. If you look at the map, it's right there.
I can't see that far.
It's right next to Roy Hurst. Now, what's the history of this property? How did the 2.5 acres, whatever, this small tract, did, when Roy, I don't know, was this originally on Roy Weber's farm, or?
I'm not 100% sure. When we started our chicken house project,
Yeah, it's close.
when we started the chicken house project, that 2.5 acres was actually 7 acres. It came back to, I'm gonna lean across here. The parcel was more like this. So at some point, I think according to the deeds, Floyd had bought it from another party. Floyd or then his dad, Andy. If you look on Exhibit B up there, you should be able to see it a little better.
When you say, when you bought property with the farmhouse now, this was a larger tract?
It was. It extended here and back to this corner across.
Oh, so it was more like this?
Correct.
Okay.
But the reason the property line was moved at that point is because of where we wanted to put our chicken barn.
Okay.
Because it would have sat right over that property line. So that's when, through Hershey surveying and the engineer, it was reduced to 2.5 acres.
So this was all, you're saying one big lot?
That was,
Yeah.
whatever it was,
And
7.5
the
acres.
chicken, the turkey, the houses come like that.
Correct.
Yeah. I think I remember that What's the intended purpose of the 2+ acres now?
What the party would want to do with them.
Yeah.
They like to put up a building to house their construction company, so they'd be their meeting place in the morning, store their whatever materials that they use through the course of its working day.
Well, I was involved when this was rezoned about 3 years ago. And this board asked the planning commission to add some additional acreage to the highway commercial because P&L had purchased, or had taken about 60 acres and took it out of the highway commercial use. I think the board thought that the planning commission was going to propose adding, another 60-some acres. Instead, it wasn't this board's initial direction for the planning commission to make it, but it was. The planning commission then ended up recommending approximately 200 acres. And they picked properties that had uses on that were similar to highway commercial to make them permitted as a right instead of as a variance or grandfathered in. And that's why it became 200 acres instead of 60 acres that we were trying to replace. We forwarded it to the Lancaster County Planning Commission for their recommendations, and they said it was inconsistent with our comprehensive plan at the time. We still have that same comprehensive plan. But they did recommend that we rezone the properties that were being used for highway commercial uses and only the infill areas between them to make a contiguous highway commercial area. So that property was specifically left off because it was not an infill property. That's what defined in the lines where, to the extent of what was being rezoned. Had that been considered at that time, it wouldn't have fallen under the county's recommendation to only rezone the properties that had uses similar to highway commercial and only the infill areas that lived in contiguous property. There was confusion when we rezoned that because some people felt that we were stretching the areas we were rezoning, but it was the board's opinion that we were following the Lancaster County's recommendation only to rezone empty tracts that were within the boundaries of other properties. So I'm not sure how to respond to your request tonight, because the Planning Commission initially recommended this and chose where them boundary lines were. It was this board's final decision to accept that recommendation. We could ask the Planning Commission, we could send it down to the Planning Commission and ask them to review this before we make any decision, before we'd have our council prepare a document. If they said no, that they really felt they wanted to stay to that, then we would save you and us the hassle of going any further. If they say no, they can see that would be okay, then we could have they could ask the board to prepare a document to rezone that. But the challenge we'll have is the county's recommendations were that that would not be consistent with our comprehensive plan. Now, my first thought is, can you build out what you have before we add more to it? Can you utilize acreage on the other side of the road, or we're in the next 2 years we'll probably redo our comprehensive plan, and we'll have to show some future growth areas. And it may be we would project that as a future growth when it's built out, but as long as it's not built out, there wouldn't be any reason to move on to additional rezoning. Now, I think we've always said we would want to see commercial uses along state highways. That's a negative there. It's Township Road. If we can see growth, if we can see commercial growth along state highways, then they're maintaining the extra traffic. The county said the expansion was consistent with our economic growth goals for the township to provide increased employment opportunities in the township. So your thought of, might meet the economic goals to provide additional income, employment opportunities.
You mentioned going sending it to the planning commission. Would that be Brecknock planning commission?
Yeah. That'd be simply go to the Township Planning Commission, state your desire, and see if they believe that, before we did anything else. And then if they feel like it's something that they would recommend, then we can have our solicitor prepare the job description. Then it would have to go to the county and get their recommendations. And then this board at some point would have to make a final decision regardless of what they say. But
Well, there's two things. It would fill that corner up over the Panorama Drive. And the other thing, I don't know what the soil types are there, but it's not the most desirable farmland. It's straight up a hill to farm it, so it's not Weaverland Valley flat loam country, I don't think.
I can't imagine how much topsoil's left on it, because a lot of it's washed down on the road over the past 2 years, too.
Well, some truth in that.
and again, these are arguments that can be taken up with the Planning Commission too, as far as that. I guess I go back to, again, I try to keep an open mind, but can you utilize spaces that are already rezoned? You have property on the other side of the road, and again, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but can you fill out what is available before we're asked to expand it?
Right. And that is a viable option, I think. The main reason that this was the first option is it is deeded separate.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else I do is going to have to go through that is going to have to